Hi, everybody. It's Linda again, and welcome back. We are just going to have a look at MakerSuite. As somebody who is not a machine learning expert, I've run through a few of the machine learning tutorials, have never really had the time to try and grasp the knowledge base that is needed really to understand how machine learning actually works and how you're supposed to build this stuff. That being said, I'm a big fan of ChatGPT. I've used it a lot over the last few months, and I've used it for quite a few different things. Most notably, I used it to help me write a children's book for my new granddaughter. I had a great idea for a children's book, but I'm not an author, and I thought maybe ChatGPT could help me word it properly, and it did. And it's a cute little children's book. My daughter loved it. My granddaughter is a year old, so we'll hope someday she'll love it as much. I've actually used ChatGPT as well to help me write the scripts for some YouTube videos and things like that. So ChatGPT for me has been very useful. But MakerSuite is and Palm API is a completely different take on that. I thought I'd put out a YouTube video on it so that you could actually see what MakerSuite is and what we can use MakerSuite is, because MakerSuite is not ChatGPT and it's not Bard. It's something completely different. It's for prototype. Well, MakerSuite is basically to help you create the prompt, and then Palm API lets you call that prompt through the API and get your results back. Now, you may be asking, well, why would I want to use this? Well, that's kind of what I'm going to try and show you now, because I've already written a couple of scripts that use it. The first being a app script that lets me type in something along the lines of, I just did 2 hours of work for my client at test.test.com, and I was helping them fix their Python script for Google Analytics, and it goes ahead and it adds the date and time and along with the client into an app sheet. So I'm actually logging my time for my freelance work better than I was before, because before I was just doing it in Google Calendar and it wasn't really as optimal as it could be. By now, by having it over in a Google Sheet, it's much easier for me to go ahead and create my invoices. So I actually think this is actually going to be quite useful for me. Another thing that I did with it was I hooked it up to the Google Analytics Data API and Admin API so that I can request Google Analytics reports. Yeah, it's actually that cool. I mean, I can say to it, I just type into it and say, give me a report for my Google Analytics property ID 123456, and show me the events by, I don't know, active users for the last month. And it'll go ahead and make a report into Google Sheets. And it actually works pretty well when it works. And it's, I blame myself and the prompt that I'm giving it. The prompt is not as optimal as it could be, and I'm still working on it, and I will probably be working on it for a while because I think it's a lot of fun, and I'm having a blast playing with that. I've actually got it building graphs and everything, so it's pretty cool. I may dump a picture of it in when I edit this, so we'll just leave a note for editing Linda on this. So now let's have a look at MakerSuite, because I'm not going to go into Palm API very much in this section. We're just going to look at MakerSuite right now. So if we go over to MakerSuite, this is MakerSuite. It looks kind of like ChatGPT or Bard, but it's really not. I mean, again, you can type whatever you want in here. It's got a few basics things, so you can You can let's think of something. So write me a story about a blue car and target there. So write me a story about a blue car and target children around 5 years old. Be funny. And this is basically just like what you would do over on any other AI. Makes sense. Pretty much easy. It goes ahead and it spits it out. Now, one of the things that you'll note is that it doesn't spit it out in a nice format like, for example, ChatGPT would. It's not individual. It's not like you're holding on a conversation with this. This is a one-time thing. So you're not holding on a conversation with it and not going to remember this next thing down here. If I add more to it, it works sometimes. So, but that's basically what this does. Now, one of the fun things that this can do is that you can add prompts to it. So if I go ahead and then say insert input here, I can then go down here and I can say red car. And then I can add another example and then say, for example, a boat. And then it'll go ahead and it'll write an individual one. So you can add stuff in between, okay? But again, we're still doing something exactly like what you would do with like ChatGPT and Bard. You're just doing basic stuff. So why would a developer need this? Well, a developer probably wouldn't. Now, if we go back to the example I said earlier about logging my time. So if I was to say, so I did some work, my client, all right, so now, but what, this is the prompt. This is what I did some work, but what do we want it to do with that? Well, because I was trying to put it in code, I actually had it pulling out JSON for me. So what we can do is say, you are my assistant. You are going to help me log my time. Okay. Now, what do we want out of the text here? Well, we want to know, we want to know who the client was and what I did, and probably how long I was doing it, right? So let's start with, you are going to, you're going to build me a JSON object, okay? And that JSON object is going to contain two things. An email and what? A description. Let's start with that. So it's going to contain an email and a description, okay? I want you to find email. I want you to find the email and the description in the following test, or in the following test. Let's fix our grammar. Okay, and again, insert input. So now I say, oops. There. Now, So basically, I'm telling it I did some work for my client, test.com, and I was working on their Python script. Now, the question is, can it figure out how to grab the email and the description? Okay, so let's run it. And it grabbed it. Okay, well, let's test it again with something else. What happens if I say, so let's reverse it. I was working on a Python script for my client, test.com. So basically, all I did was reword it. The first time I said I did some work for the client, and then I added the description. Well, this time I added the description, then I added the email. So basically, you can see here that it was able to figure it out no matter how I had worded it. Now that's cool, because then no matter what I type, it's able to figure it out. And then I can take that and log it over Sheets. Okay, that's fun. But what about adding like time? How much time I did? So we could add something like hours work. Okay. And then see if it can figure that out. All right. The amount of hours worked. All right. Okay. Hours worked. There. Now, do you think it can figure that out? What do you like about that? I don't know what it doesn't like about that. I think it's just... Okay, let's see if it can figure that out. What happens when I run these and there was no hours added? So if there's no hours added, it's not going to add anything. Okay, so what if I say I worked 5 hours for test 2 at test.com, fixing their Google Tag Manager, because we all know everybody's having Google Tag Manager issues now that GA4 is gone. So, what do you think? Did it do it? Yes, it grabbed the amount of time. Okay, so I'm going to have to add that because I didn't actually add that to the original version that I was doing. So that's pretty cool. Okay, so now it can actually grab the time as well. So that's cool. But what else could we do? Well, could we have it do a start and end date? So if we tell it now, can it figure out the start and end date? What do you think? So if we say to and then one of the things that I was able to figure out is that it was better to give it a date format because of the fact that this is, I think it's because it's in the U.S. So the U.S., I don't know if you know, but Europe and the U.S. we mix up. The U.S. likes to do month, day, year, and in Europe we do day, month, year, or something. It's like backwards. So if we tell it that so we give it the actual dates, right? Now, what happens if we run this? Because we don't want to break what we've already done, right? Okay, so if it doesn't have a date, then it's just going to leave them to the default. And I don't know, I should probably. Okay, let's, rather than adding another one. I did some work for the, see, the thing I don't understand is it knows, because we didn't give it time. All right, so if we say 23:00. It's 11 o'clock at night. Yeah, it's 11 o'clock at night. Let's do that. All right. So let's say, so now we've given it time. So HH colon MM. All right. Let's see if we can figure that out. No, it still can't figure out that I said, see, I said 5 hours here, right? So it still hasn't figured this out, right? Now, I want you to what if we say to it, I want you to calculate subtract the, how are we going to tell it how to do times, right? So if we say start time start date time will be hours work, will be the current time minus the hours worked. What do you think it's going to do there? Huh. It did something. No, it didn't. Yes, it did, because it set start time to this. Now, I remember that the main issue with this is that it doesn't actually know the current time. So end date So if we tell it that the end date should be the current time, right? Because if I'm logging it now, we assume now is when I stopped. And then start date will be the date minus the other minus that, right? Yeah. Okay, see, it's confused. Now, why is it confused? It's because it doesn't actually know what the current date time is. So if we up here, now I have to thank Alan. Alan, if you're watching this, I have to thank Alan because he's the one that actually told me this because I couldn't figure out what was going on. So Alan, thank you. So we tell it, this is what the current time is right now. So it's it's 2023 and it's 0907 because it is the 7th of September and it's 1325. Let's call it it's 1 o'clock. Okay. Now let's see what it can figure out. Yes, there's 5 hours between this. So it knows that the end date is now. You know, the start date is 5 hours before when I'm logging it, right? Okay, that's fine. Now, what are you going to do with this? Well, the fun thing is the API will then return this to me and then I can do whatever I want with my code, right? So all I do is send this to the API with my replacement and it returns it. But what's even more fun is that you can add more than one replace thing up here. So if I go ahead and remove this, tell it it's another input, and then I can actually tell it in my input what the current time is, right? So there you go. Then it'll calculate. It goes ahead, figures it out, and calculates back the current date and time. Okay. Again, you're saying, yeah, but what am I going to do with this? Well, you can go ahead in your code, right, and replace these. Tell it what time it is currently. When you're sending your request, send it the text that the user input into their, into your application, and it'll give you back a JSON string that you can do whatever you want with. All right? And if you don't believe me, they actually are so nice that they give us the code, right? So this is actually the Python code that you need to run this. We can actually run it in Colab. But if you go here, you can see there's input 1 and there's input 2, and then it's just doing a replace inside of the Python string, inside the prompt in Python, and it sends it off to the API. and then it returns it to me, to my script. And that's it. That's all it does. Now, I have converted this over because they're only giving us curl, JavaScript, JSON. They're not giving us everything right now. I converted this over to AppScript, and I will add the AppScript code here. Okay, so here is the code over in Google Sheets. Now, all I do is go ahead and type whatever I do into this little field. So all it does is I just, I've got it set to run this, to run the script when I click on the button. And it goes ahead and it logs it. Well, actually I clicked on the button, so it's already logged it. And it adds the current date, the current time, it does that. And then it does the start date and the end date, and then a description of what I did. And I'm actually logging the prompt just because I'm testing and I want to know what's working and what's not. And if it didn't work, I want to know why. So if we go over to AppScript, I've got some basic functions for Google Sheets, which basically just creates stuff like when I log a new client, when I type in a new email address, it'll go ahead and it creates a new sheet for them. So I'm keeping my clients in individual sheets. I can actually show you that by adding a new one. It should go ahead and create a new sheet for, there it goes. See, it just went ahead and created a new sheet. So, but if it's an existing sheet, then it just finds the last row and adds a new one there. So that way I'm keeping a running total of clients based upon their sheets, which has actually worked pretty well. So basically this is just some basic stuff. When I create the sheet, I add a new header so that I'm keeping things clean. It just adds the header with the, what's in there. Nothing fancy here. It's just inserts rows. Right now, it inserts one row at a time. And I was working on something with the Google Analytics one where it would insert several rows at once. But I'm not a fan of range. It's not working properly. But with this, it's just one row. So it was easy enough to just insert one row. If we go over to the code prompt, I have a couple of very simple things. I read the prompt, which basically lives in this one field or cell. So I just read that. I get the current date because remember what I said, it needed the date, right? So go ahead, I get the current date, and then I do a replace on the dates and the prompt in my script, and then I send it off to the API, and that's it. It's easy enough. Now, once that's sent, it returns back the JSON to me. Now, I have to do some cleanup on the JSON because the JSON that comes back comes back with that JSON text in the front, and it comes back with a bunch of these little, what are they, apostrophes or something like that. It comes back with those. So I have to do cleanup on it before I can parse it. And then once I parse it, then I can go ahead and use it because it's the JSON that I requested, and that's it. It's that simple. I'm hoping the team at some point will give us an API for POM that we can use directly through App Sheets. But since there isn't right now, I'm just calling the URL fetch on it. That's all I'm doing, and I'm sending it the proper body that it requires, and that's it. It's that simple. And then it returns the data to me. And the one I have for Google Analytics does something very similar, although the prompt is much bigger. It's a huge prompt. But I mean, this just works. I mean, it just sends it in, I parse it, and I get my data back. It's pretty easy the way it just returns the JSON that I need, and I'm done and dusted. That's all I need. So I hope this helped. I hope this gives you a taste, just a taste of what we're going to be able to do with MakerSuite and POM API. I think the possibilities are endless. I mean, whatever you can think of, especially with the fact that you can convince it to return JSON. I mean, there's so much that we can do. I mean, if you can think of a text that you can have and actually ask it to return JSON. Another thing that I was playing around with, which is I could send it a JWT, a JOT, and have it decode that JOT, just like you would with jwt.io. I had it decoding them for me and returning them to me. Just because, I thought it would be fun. You can have it. It's very good with like translation. So you could send it words in English and have it return them to you in Danish, or vice versa, Danish to English. So there's a lot of stuff that we can use programmatically for this. I mean, there's so many things nowadays that we are doing in our applications that you could actually just use this to do it. I mean, technically, I could have parsed this in code myself. I could write something that would go in and using regular expressions and find the email address and the time and stuff like that. I could have done it in with regular expressions. It probably would have given me some more gray hair, but you can do it, and we've done it. We've been doing it for years. But the thing is we're probably not going to have to soon. Again, this is not perfect. The JSON objects that it returns sometimes can be a little garbled. And I've also noticed with the Google Analytics one that I'm working on that because the prompt is so big that it doesn't return the data consistently. So if I run the same request, the same input prompt twice in a row, I'll get back different results, or I'll get back a different JSON object. And I think that is probably because of two things. One, my prompt is huge because I'm testing on all of the dimensions and metrics that you can use with the Google Analytics API. And because of that, I'm asking it to look for them inside of the actual text that the user has input. And I think it's getting confused. So I had a thought, and that is, first of all, this API right now is free. It doesn't cost anything to use it. I asked over in the MakerSuite forums, or over in the one for the GDs that we have, and apparently they're going to be releasing a pricing on it at some point. But apparently it's supposed to be similar to one of the ones that they already have. I'll put the name of it up on the screen. I can't remember what it is right now. But apparently it's something really low, like 0.0005 cent of a cent or something like that. So it's a really low number for each request that you send. So maybe it wouldn't be such a bad idea if I split it up and I say, okay, here is my prompt from the user, only look for dimensions. And then here's my prompt from the user, only look for the metrics. And maybe splitting it up, I might get better luck having it build my report for Google Analytics than trying to do it in a single prompt. And I don't know. I'm still testing with it because I think this Google Analytics one it's a lot of fun, and it's cool to see how it just dumps the data down for me. So when it works, it's great. When it doesn't work, you have to run it again, and maybe you'll get a better result. So again, these are early days. It's really early days. I can't wait to see what we're going to be doing in 5 years, but I have no idea how long this is getting, and I think I'm starting to ramble on. So I'm going to cut it here, and this will be my first taste for you of MakerSuite and Palm API and what you can do. If you like the video, let me know, and I'll see what else I can do, because I'm freelance, so I work when I have clients that need help, and when they don't, I play with stuff like this. So If you want to see some of the other stuff that I played with, let me know. I want to see if I can get it to a game. I've been playing 20 questions with the chat version because this is the text version. So I was trying to get it to do 20 questions and seeing what you could do there. Can you turn this into some kind of a game? I don't know. And I want to do something with the chat, and I haven't had time to look at that one yet. But I'm gonna see what else I can come up with good ideas. But if you have an idea of something you'd like to see me test with this, then please let me know. Send me an email. My email is in the about section. You can contact me. Let me know. I'd love to hear it because I'm running out of ideas on my own. And we'll see what we can find. I'll see what I can put together because this is going to be cool. It's going to be fun. All right. I guess that's it for now. I'm going to go see how much editing I need to do on this, and we'll see you next time. And thanks for watching. And I don't know, like and subscribe if this helped you. So, bye.